Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Afternoons with the Ambassador here on the Ambassadorial Wing. And hope you all are having a great afternoon. And we've reached Wednesday, it's hump day. We've reached the middle of the week. Got one more day of work for myself, and hope y'all are doing well out there in YouTube land and wherever else you may be doing today. And wanted to go live this afternoon and bring you all my thoughts on a few topics. Of course, we got a brand new episode of Marvel's What If, and we also got the premiere of a brand new series on Disney Plus, and that is, of course, Star Wars Visions. And I want to discuss those both with y'all. But we also got a very interesting statement from the ex-wife of George Lucas, Marcia Lucas, and I wanted to bring you all my thoughts on these topics today. And it's been a little bit since I had done. I know it's been a few days since I did Afternoons with the Ambassador, but I didn't have a terribly bad day at work, and I felt up for this. And obviously, you all know me. I am a lover of Star Wars. I'm a lover of Marvel, and today we got some really good stuff from both Marvel Studios and also from Lucasfilm. And everybody that's in the chat, whether you're lurking or whether you're here, appreciate you all being here. And to the chat, Kira, come on. Kira, is good to see you, bud. Hope you're having a great day. But we're not going to stand on a whole lot of ceremony. We got a lot to cover. And let's just jump right into it. And I do want to start off this afternoon's stream to bring you my thoughts on the statement by Marcia Lucas. And then we'll go into my review of What If. And I did watch the first 3 episodes of the new anthology series Star Wars Vision. So I'll bring you all my thoughts on that as well. But a couple days ago, give or take, Marcia Lucas released a statement in regards to her thoughts and feelings on not just the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but also on the prequel trilogy. And for those of you who know, Marcia Lucas has not given an interview to anyone in a very, very, very long time. And speaking as a hardcore Star Wars fan, I was very intrigued by the statement that was released. And it is, I know some people are going to spin this. Myself, I am not going to spin this. I am going to look at it at face value and just give my thoughts on it. I will try and be as unbiased as I possibly can in terms of what Marcia Lucas had to say about the Star Wars sequels and also about the prequels. So, and to the chat, Superior Hero Collectibles, Cody, good to see you, man. Kira, I might drop the link later, but right now I just want to kind of let it be me giving my thoughts on these topics and everything. But we'll see how things go, because got a lot to cover, and I want to get my thoughts out there, and then we'll go from there. But Marcia Lucas the other day released a statement giving her thoughts on the current state of the Star Wars franchise. And I imagine most of you have seen this. I imagine most of you have read it and so on. So I'm not going to rehash it here. But what I will say is this. Marcia Lucas is almost like the mother of Star Wars, whereas George Lucas is the father, obviously. And I imagine it did bother her. We don't know to what extent or what extreme it did bother her that George did sell off the rights to Star Wars. But, they had their issues in the past. I mean, they obviously divorced and everything. And I from what I can recall, I think the divorce was relatively amicable. There wasn't a whole lot of fighting back and forth, to the best of my recollection. But that's beside the point. Marcia's statement was very conciliatory, but it was also, I will say, very to the point. Now, she didn't throw any massive shade at Kathleen Kennedy, who she has been longtime friends with. She didn't throw any shade at J.J. Abrams or anyone else that was involved in the whole deal and involved with the sequel trilogy. She gave her thoughts, she gave her opinions, and that is the long and short of it. Now, how do I personally feel about what she had to say? Do I feel a sense of validation for my stance on how I feel about how the sequel trilogy turned out? I would be lying to you all if I didn't. Marcia Lucas's statement does, to a degree, not I don't want to say necessarily validates, but reinforces how I feel. But I will say this. I am not going to use this as ammunition to bash on the sequel trilogy, nor those who are currently in charge at Lucasfilm. Did I care for the sequel trilogy? No, I didn't. But that being said, the debate and the discussion on the sequel trilogy is at this point settled. I will tell you all very candidly that Lucas is entitled to her opinion and to what she had to say. And for her to come out and say the things that she said when she said, I always liked Kathy, I thought she was full of beans, and so on. This doesn't sound like something, it doesn't sound like a backhanded comment in terms of someone that she has known for many, many years. And I will say this when she said, and you can quote me on this, JJ and Kathy, call me, I think was a very conciliatory and a very polite thing for her to do. So, and I'll bring up Kira's comment here, just real quick. I wanted to follow up on some words I mixed with Jarbo that came out later, though. If we can talk, it's a big deal regardless. But just wanted another opinion. Yeah. Oh yeah, I get what you're saying, Kira. It's fine. But honestly, we who are part of the Star Wars fandom are obviously going to take what Marcia Lucas had to say in a variety of different ways. For those that are not fans of the sequel trilogy, we're going to look at this statement and say, well, yeah, of course. Now we've got somebody who's backing up our point of view here, and that's fair. For those that were fans of the sequel trilogy, some of them may say, well, what does she know? She hasn't been involved in Star Wars since Return of the Jedi. So, hey, and to the chat, my good friend and fellow council member of the Council of One's Mountains of Elysium, thank you for popping by, bud, and hope you're having a great day. And obviously, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. So, but yeah, this statement by Marcia Lucas is going to be used by AMP as ammunition on all sides of the Star Wars fan base. But I think the best thing we can do is simply take her statement at face value and not read anything into it. So, and to the chat, Benson's good to see you, bud. And so disappointed with What If Ambassador. This week's episode was my last. Well, I have a different perspective on that, Benson's, but I can understand if you didn't care for it, and if the series just isn't doing it for you. Hey, I get it, and I'm still going to talk about it because honestly, I really enjoyed this episode of What If. It was very, I will say, unorthodox to put it succinctly, but getting back to my thoughts on the whole statement from Marcia Lucas. We should take her words at face value and not try to read any more into them than what is there. Yeah, and Benson's. I'll give it here in a little bit and everything. Right now, Benson's. I'm talking about the statement that Marcia Lucas had released in terms of how she felt about the sequel trilogy and also how she felt about the prequel trilogy in terms of, at least, the Phantom Menace, and as the Phantom Menace, not a certain group of blockheads, but that's another topic for another time. I look at what she said, and I simply see a statement by a woman who has a long history with the Star Wars franchise, whether she was connected to it or not at various times in her life. And I can honestly say I do understand where she's coming from to one degree or another. I can't say I completely and totally understand how she might feel, but what she said, I do very much get. When she makes the statement that we've got this girl, Rey, who was supposed to be a force wielder, yet we don't know where she comes from, and we don't know where her powers came from or anything else of the sort. And I can say, yeah, there's truth in this. There's absolutely truth in what she said about Rey. And I know that this statement was made, I think, around the time of when The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi had been released, and it was before The Rise of Skywalker had been released in theaters, obviously, because she didn't make any remarks in regards to that film. But just from, her other comment about the fact that how Han Solo was killed. Now, those of us that are far part of the Star Wars fan base know that for a very long time, Harrison Ford had wanted out of the Star Wars franchise. He wanted his character of Han Solo to be given a satisfying conclusion to his journey, to his arc. And I can understand too where she's coming from when she says Han's death didn't have any rhyme or reason to it. And the way I would interpret that, and I know I said I wasn't going to try to read into any more into what she said than what she said, but I will. I don't want to try. I don't want to be talking out both sides of my mouth. Looking at the situation between Ben Solo and his father, Han Solo, it the problem was with that whole situation is we don't know the full context of what exactly caused the falling out between Ben and his parents, Han and Leia. We get some clues, but we don't get a definitive answer as to why they had a falling out. That is never really truly fleshed out. And that is unfortunate because it would give us a lot more context as to why Ben would feel that he has to kill his father. So, and I do want to address the chat. Games, movies, and comics R Us. It is good to see you, my friend, and thank you for being here. I say hi. I'm just great posters, but is Cruella any good at all? To me, it looks terrible, but I am cynical. Games, I will tell you, and if you have not watched my review of Cruella, I know it's been a few months and everything since I did do that review. I thought there was a lot of merit, and I thought there was a lot of good within that film. I mean, they have breathed new life into a dormant franchise that has not seen the light of day since like the early or mid 90s with the live action remakes of 101 Dalmatians. And what they did with Cruella, I thought was very entertaining. It was very insightful. And I had a very deep personal connection to it. So, games, if you haven't, like I said, if you have not checked out my review of Cruella, I would suggest you go do so. But I will tell you, I saw the movie twice in theaters, once on my own and once with the missus, and we both walked out of it and we both enjoyed it. And I just picked it up on 4K and Blu-ray, the 4K and Blu-ray combo yesterday, quite literally. So, but I do want to also address Kira's comment here. Ambassador Wang, just want to know, and I'm curious to know what the source of your avatar. I love how you made it blue, but it's killing me wanting to know what I'm looking at. Kira, that is actually Grand Admiral Thrawn from the expanded universe of Star Wars. My good friend Dawson Weidrich of Nerdy in Many Ways, he actually made that avatar for me because he knows how much of a Star Wars fan and how much of a fan I am of the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn. So Dawson gets the credit for that. I did not do it. Anything. My talent is not by any means in the artistic realm, is more in the literary field. I'm a writer. I'm not an artist. So the full credit goes to Dawson. And if Dawson catches this, or if you see next time Dawson goes live, give him a big shout out. And if you have not subscribed to Dawson's channel, I highly encourage you to do so because Dawson does a lot of great content and he is truly nerdy in many ways. So, but getting back to the whole situation with Marcia Lucas. When she made the comment, and I kind of want to wrap up this particular part of it because I want to move on. When she said that there was no rhyme or reason as to why Han was killed by his son, there is much truth in this. So, and it would have been nice if we had gotten a little more context as to why Ben felt so strongly about how he felt about his parents, about Han and Leia. And maybe, I don't know, maybe down the road, either through official Star Wars material, we'll get a better idea of why Ben had the falling out with his parents that he did. And I'll probably explore it myself in my own fan fiction that I'm working on. So, but, you know, to kind of wrap up this particular part of the stream in terms of the whole situation with Marcia Lucas. I regard her opinion very highly. And I know there are those out there, they're just going to try and twist this to their own ends. And I think that is exceedingly disingenuous because her opinions are her own and they should not be used as ammunition to further fracture or damage this fandom that we are all a part of. But unfortunately, there are probably going to be those out there that do. And if any of them are listening or any of them are hearing me, I would say this. Before you go spouting off about how Marcia Lucas feels about the sequel trilogy and her comments on it, and not to mention her thoughts on the prequel trilogy as well, or at least the Phantom Menace, ask yourself this question. Is it right or ethical or moral to use one person's statement to further damage a fandom that we all are a part of and that we all love and that has already had enough damage done to it? Or should you perhaps simply take the statement that she has made at face value, and if you want to comment on it, do so. Believe her words as they are. Do not read any more or any less into them than what there is. Because unfortunately, none of us will ever probably have the opportunity to talk to Marcia Lucas face to face. Would I love to? Yes, I would absolutely love to. And not just because of this comment. I would love to thank her for her contributions to this universe that I have loved and been a part of all my life. But, also as a fan of the prequel trilogy, I can understand where she's coming from in terms of her comments when she said she walked out of the theater to her car and she got in and she started crying. And I think in part she realized the errors that her ex-husband had made. And she kind of feels like if only I could reach out to George and maybe say, hey, maybe I can help you with this. Maybe I can help you make this better or make this right. Because I think deep down, she loves this universe just as much as we all do. She had a hand in it being created and made, and she had just as much of an investment in it, if not, well, she had more of an investment in it than just as a simple fan. I mean, yeah, you could say, well, she was just an editor on the films. Who cares? I mean, well, a film is truly formed and constructed in the editing bay. So, and I would hope that maybe if we ever had the opportunity to thank Marcia Lucas en masse for her contributions to the original trilogy, then maybe she would understand just how much we love this universe and how much we appreciate everyone, not just her, but everyone that she worked with side by side to create the Star Wars franchise and the Star Wars universe. And I will address Kira's comment here. Do you think the side stories have made Star Wars better or worse, like Solo, Rogue One, etc.? Kira, I cannot speak to Solo because I've never seen it. And it's not so much that I did disliked it or I was boycotting it. It was just simply a fact that I have never really sat down and watched Solo. Now, in terms of Rogue One, I thoroughly enjoyed Rogue One. I think honestly, Rogue One is one of the better films that has come out of Disney's ownership of Lucasfilm since it began back in 2012. As far as the other with content that has come out, The Mandalorian, I think has been a very good addition to the Star Wars universe. Season 7 of Clone Wars. I mean, these are all things I've talked about in the past and everything. I don't know if you've heard any of those conversations, Kira. You may or may not have, but I'll give you the short version. Rogue One filled in a plot hole that some people would say, why even bother? But honestly, I think it deepens and it enriches the victory and the narrative of A New Hope in a lot of ways. And yes, we have the epic hallway scene with Vader crushing those rebel soldiers, and yes, we have that brief cameo at the very, very end with the young Princess Leia. And we get some very interesting characters. I mean, I will tell you all with no undue restraint, I did shed a few tears when K2SO died. I did also shed a few tears when Chirrut Inway and Baze Malbus, the Guardians of the Wills, when they died. But I look at it this way. The members of Rogue One, they may have died, but they succeeded in bringing hope back to the galaxy that had been robbed of hope for so long. So yes, I think Rogue One has its place in the Star Wars mythos. I think it is a good addition, and I may at some point sit down. I may watch Solo. Heck, who knows? When I'm done with this stream, I may sit down and watch it tonight. But to kind of transition from the whole Marcia Lucas situation, I do want to open up the discussion about Star Wars Visions. And I will tell you all, and for those of you who don't know, I am, and always have been a very ardent fan of anime, Japanese anime. And this passion and this love of anime goes all the way back to my high school years, in particular as a child of the 80s. I mean, I will tell you all, in a week or so, I'm going to be doing either another Afternoons with the Ambassador or another retro review. It will be of what I consider to be the great granddaddy of Japanese anime that got brought over to the States, and that will be, of course, on Akira, the Japanese anime film, which is by far one of my all time favorites. But in terms of Star Wars Visions, I think honestly this was a very ballsy move, a very gutsy decision that Lucasfilm made to bring all these different anime studios in to do all these different types of anime stories. And I did get to watch the first three installments of Star Wars Visions this afternoon, right after I finished watching um, the last episode of What If. So today, this afternoon has been filled with, I will say, some really good um, animation content, both in terms of Marvel and, of course, of now Star Wars. Now, when I first heard that they were going to do this whole series or this anthology of Japanese anime shorts based in the Star Wars universe, I was instantaneously intrigued. And I do want to address Kira's comment here. Ambassador Wing, I may have missed this. Disregard my previous chat, but have you ever talked about the Force Unleashed, Star Killer, etc.? I don't want to waste your time. I did. Honestly, Kira, I have not really ever discussed the Force Unleashed. Um, it's not that I didn't dislike it. I did play the first Force Unleashed game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will be perfectly candid with you. With you, um, I've never really discussed Star Wars gaming before, but it could be a topic that I could put a stream together for and do down the road and everything. Because I am a fan of a lot of the different Star Wars games that are out there, both from the previous generation of consoles with, say, the Xbox or the PlayStation 2 or 3 and so on. But I will make this I do want to get back on topic. So but Kira, no, I have not ever discussed the Force Unleashed. So with these 3 episodes I got to watch this afternoon, I got a very interesting look into 3 different both anime design styles, and 3 different takes on the Star Wars universe. So, the 3 episodes that I did watch were the Duel, Tatooine Rhapsody, and the Twins. Now, just a fair warning to you all, if you have not watched any of these, now, if you don't care about spoilers, okay, fine. You don't care about spoilers. I will try and keep this somewhat spoiler free, but I may not be able to be fully able to do so, because to really discuss these uh shorts, I'm going to have to go into some mild spoilers. With the Duel, which was the first episode in the Visions anthology, or season 1 of the anthology, the art style itself was honestly very intriguing. It was almost like a motion version of a charcoal drawing. The animation is very, very rough in terms of how the characters and how the landscape moves and is designed, but you can make out the details of the characters and of the landscape very, very well. Now, in terms of this, I say this, I will put this up there with another uh, installment from another anthology, and that is, of course, Halo Legends. There is and I actually have Halo Legends on DVD. There is a short within that anthology that deals with a battle between 2 elites. And the art style that they used for that particular episode was like they had taken a watercolor and animated it. And the art style is very striking and very beautiful. And for those of you that may have ever watched Halo Legends, you probably know which particular short I am discussing here. But in terms of the Duel in Star Wars Visions, the art style is it's beautiful. The colors and everything. Granted, it's all primarily done in black and whites. Like I said, it's like a motion charcoal drawing, and it's very beautiful. The colors are very sparse. I mean, the main colors that we see are um, from the different lighting, and obviously from the lightsaber blades that are used by these these two force wielders. Now, I will say there is an interesting twist in this in the duel, because you have a group of bandits who you would almost mistake for a platoon of imperial soldiers, because they are dressed very reminiscent of imperial stormtroopers, and you would even think that they are part of the imperial military, but it seems almost like they are. This may take place after Return of the Jedi, where the empire is fractured, and this is a group of imperial soldiers that are just turned themselves into bandits and are just going around this planet taking advantage of all these isolated settlements. And we're introduced to this lone swordsman, and he has this little modified protocol or astromech droid, which is very much designed very reminiscent of R2D2. It even sounds a bit like R2D2. But the interesting thing that they did with this astromech droid is they put a, I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. It almost looks like one of those Japanese bamboo hats on the droid, and it's very odd looking at first, but once you get accustomed to how the animation moves, you can figure out, okay. So, and let's see, Kira, how did you feel about the concept of about this of Sithari? That Kira is a, I'm more than willing to discuss that, but right now I just want to kind of focus on the Visions episodes. So, but I'll be more than happy to address that another time, either later during the stream or at another time. Absolutely. So, but the interesting thing is this main character, this Master Ronin that has this astromech droid. He carries a red bladed lightsaber, and the main antagonist, like the commander of this platoon of bandits or whatever you want to call it, she is also wielding a red lightsaber. And I think that's a very interesting concept, because we always denote force wielders by the color of their lightsaber blades. If they're red, they're instantaneously Sith. But instead, here we have two force wielders who are both using red lightsabers, but the other, this Master Ronin, who is fighting to protect the village. And I think that is a very clever twist that the studio did here to play with our expectations, but play with them in a way that wasn't completely breaking of the world. Because the thing we have to remember with this anthology, it is not official canon. They now, granted, they are playing with canon here, because like I mentioned, we often denote a Jedi or a Sith by the color of their lightsabers. But if you remember a particular episode from Clone Wars with the whole Darkness of Umbara story arc, and you have Master Pong Krell, who is trying to defect um, to the Separatists. And here, what they do with this short essentially is say the color of one's lightsaber does not denote how their demeanor or their moral compass will shift or sway. So, let's see, Kira, what does the purple lightsaber mean? Just to give Samuel L. Jackson something unique. Well, now, Kira, actually, let me. There is a rationale. Now, granted, real world context, Samuel L. Jackson wanted a purple blade lightsaber, and George Lucas was kindly enough to um, uh, accept his request. But in terms of the within universe lore, a purple blade lightsaber was oftentimes used by a force practitioner who would had a much more aggressive fighting style, or even may have been a former practitioner of the dark side and turn to the light. Now, one added note that I don't know if you knew this, Kira, or not, but in terms of Mace Windu, he used a particular fighting style, and he had an ability within the Force that allowed him to channel any dark side energies that were focused towards him back onto his opponent. So, but in terms of what they did with uh this particular short, the duel, is they give you a very interesting duel in and of itself. And what something else that they did with the female force wielder, or Sith if you prefer, although I don't think she's actually Sith. I think, yeah, and well, actually, Kira, as far as I remember, Mace never fought Count Dooku. He fought Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith, but to the best of my knowledge, um, Windu never fought Dooku, 1-on-1. At least not in the Clone Wars, as far as I recall. But anyway, I will say the design of the female Force wielder's lightsaber umbrella was somewhat reminiscent of another old, I think it's either Japanese or Chinese uh film series called Lady Snowblood, and the main protagonist in that used a like razor sharp umbrella to kill some of her opponents. And I think that was a nice little callback to that particular character. But what they ended up doing is the female force wielder um, removed that particular attachment and just went down to a single lightsaber blade for the duel between her and the male force wielder. And I cannot say that I did not approve of what they did in this particular short in terms of the art style and the story and kind of the twisting around of expectations. And I will say this, it was a very satisfying duel. It very much was in keeping with old um, samurai movies or martial arts movies, because there weren't many blows between either combatant. And there is an old tradition within samurai culture where the number of strikes between opponents was kept to a minimum, because it was a sign of how skilled they were with their blades, with their weapons. And I think this was true right here as well, because I think in total there are maybe 4 or 5 actual exchanges between the two combatants. And I think it's a nice homage to the old sword dueling days of ancient Japan. So, but moving along to the second episode of Star Wars Visions with Tatooine Rhapsody, this had a very different, and I will say, if you do watch these, be prepared because the art styles and the stories that are told are going to be somewhat jarring because you go from a very somber and very muted color pattern or palette within the Duel to Tatooine Rhapsody, which is very manga esque in how they design the characters and how the world is structured. So, and I will admit, I was kind of on the fence with this particular episode. I may have to go back and rewatch it just on its own, isolated. And I think honestly that may be the best way for those of you that catch this stream on the replay. If you do watch Star Wars Visions, I would like to hear your comments and down below, and let me know what you thought of each particular installment. Because, like I said, it was kind of jarring for me, not in a bad way, but I didn't. I expected that there would be a change in art style for each of these shorts. Yeah, exactly, Kira. The force powers within the Duel were very selective and appropriate for this particular battle. I mean, I will say this, and then I want to move on to the next episode. The fact that Master Ronan uses Tutaminis, that is, or a form of Tutaminis where he's able to hold off the lightsaber blade from actually killing him, I thought was a very nice show of just how skilled in the Force that particular character was. But what we get with Tatooine Rhapsody is a little more lighthearted, but it still has it does have its different beats. This evidently takes place in the aftermath of the Clone Wars, more than likely, because the opening shot is of clone troopers and battle droids, their bodies strewn across a battlefield, and you see this very, very young, I would imagine Padawan, because he still has his ponytails. This very young Padawan learner, and he stumbles onto this ship after running away from something. Not exactly sure what. It's possible that he was running away. He is a survivor of Order 66. We don't know for sure, but he ends up becoming the lead singer for this rock band in the Star Wars universe, and it is a very different story. And I don't think it's not necessarily a bad story, but it wasn't one that I was necessarily expecting because, like I mentioned, the art style of the characters and of the landscape is very reminiscent uh, of manga, of the manga comics and so on. And the fast the very phonetic or frantic pacing of the dialogue is very much in keeping with, say, like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, where there isn't a lot of dead air. And I really have to admit, I really did enjoy this particular story. There was a lot of connection between the characters. You understood that this band had been together for quite some time. And the story itself actually includes a couple of characters we are familiar with. One is being Jabba the Hutt, and also the other is Boba Fett. And I will say the design, this manga style design for Boba Fett was actually pretty cool. But the one thing I will remark upon is the fact that they actually got Tamoya Morrison to come in for this particular short to voice Boba Fett. And I think it was a nice little wink and a nod to the fans to say, this may not be the Boba Fett that you're familiar with, but, or at least not in this particular context, but we are paying homage to the character. And the story itself is actually it's not some big grandiose story, and that's the one thing I will say about these 3 episodes I watched so far. I know that there's 9 episodes in total, and I will get around to watching them all, and I will bring you a full review of Star Wars Visions, but I at least want to talk about the 3 episodes I did watch. The gist of this particular episode is the fact that one member of the band owes a debt or something along those lines, or he's supposed to be working for Jabba and he's running out on his obligation. And Jabba being Jabba, he brings in Boba Fett to bring this guy in. And like I said, the lead singer is a Padawan learner, and or a former Jedi Padawan learner. And what ends up happening in this episode is you have the band make a deal with Jabba for one performance to see if as a way to maybe forestall their friend's execution. And what ends up happening is not what you would expect. They are actually at the racetrack that we see on Tatooine in The Phantom Menace. And I thought that was a very interesting venue. Obviously, it was a place that Jabba the Hutt did own at the time. And we see Bib Fortuna, we obviously see Jabba, we see Boba Fett, and we see the band on the stage, and they do one song, and the lead singer's like, Jabba the Hutt, we are going to be the next big band in the galaxy. We are giving you the opportunity to be our first patron. And the crowd starts cheering, let them do one more song. And that's kind of how the episode ends. It kind of ends on a cliffhanger. But we don't know if the band survives. I think Jabba would see the opportunity to have a band that can make him a lot of money, and would potentially be a good PR move, quote unquote, on his part. So I like to think that this particular um, short ends on an up note, on a good note, and everything. And the band does survive, and they do get Jabba on as a patron for their band to back them as a backer, essentially. And these are all very small stories. At least these first 3 that I watched, they're very self-contained. They don't really cross each other's paths, and that's kind of the point. The third episode that I got to watch was called Twins. And this is almost the way I look at the art style, it is somewhat reminiscent of, say, Gundam Wing. For those of you that are fans of Gundam Wing, how the characters move and how everything is staged, it's very reminiscent of how the Gundam Wing animated series and movies were also designed. And it actually deals with a very interesting concept. It, it I get the impression that this particular short takes place during the reign of the Galactic Empire. And what we have in this particular short called Twins is you have a pair of children that were genetically engineered by the Empire to be a pair of dark side wielders. And their armor design is very reminiscent, particularly of the female character of the sister of the twins. Parts of the armor are somewhat reminiscent of Darth Vader's armor itself. And I have to admit, while the art design was very cool, I was like, I dig this. This is cool and everything. It's got kind of a mecha uh, element to it, and I want to say shout to the chat, Josh Bowen. Josh, good to see you, bud. Josh, I just got done a little while ago talking, giving my thoughts on the whole, on the statement that Marcia Lucas had released earlier this week, and I am currently talking about Star Wars Visions. So, um, I didn't get to watch the entire set of episodes, but I'm eventually going to. But I did watch the first three at least, and I really enjoyed them. And yes, Josh, Revan also had a purple lightsaber as well. Yep, that is very true. So, yeah, and Josh, it's a fair warning now. There will be spoilers for this. I didn't or anything. Like I said, I did get a chance to watch all of them, but I'm going to. And just from the first three episodes that I did get to watch of Star Wars Visions, I am willing to give this a chance because I don't know if you know this about me, Josh, but I have been a lifelong, or okay, I don't want to say lifelong because that wouldn't be completely accurate, but I've been a long time fan of Japanese anime. Um, and what I have to say, what I'll say about this third episode with the twins is there I've got a lot of different aesthetics going on here. And I have to admit, I really, th- of the three episodes I've watched so far, I liked the Duel and I liked Twins the best. I'm not saying I disliked Tatooine Rhapsody. The story was interesting, the animation was cool, but it really didn't jive with me, but not in a bad way to the point where I disliked it. But the thing I will say about Twins is it deals with this pair of children who were created by the Empire and they have very strong ties to the dark side of the Force or just the Force itself. And there is a very interesting design ship design in this episode. Before I get into that, I want to send a shout to the chat, DJ Odyssey. DJ, it is very good to see you. Let's see. And best strolling. How do you feel about Jason and Jenna? Was that a lame take? Um, in terms of Jason and Jenna Solo from the Star Wars expanded universe, I thought they were very good characters. And honestly, I don't see what they're doing with these Visions episodes as borrowing from the expanded universe. They're telling their own stories within Visions. So, but anyway, and Josh, I haven't seen Visions yet, but we'll definitely check it out. Josh, as I said, I can't give you a full rundown of every single episode, but I will say thus far what I have seen, I have really enjoyed. I thought it was I think this is a series that has the potential to go far and tell some really good stories. But in terms of twins, as I mentioned, there was a very interesting ship design. We actually have two Imperial 2 Star Destroyers that are linked together by what they call a hyperspace cannon, which essentially has the ability to destroy a planet. It's like a smaller scaled down version of the Death Star's super laser. But there's a twist to this. From some imagery that's in this particular short, the twins that have been genetically engineered are tied to a particular kyber crystal that is used to power the hyper laser. And they also have suits of armor which also amplifies their connection and their abilities in the force. Now, what we see in this short is actually the fact that the brother of the pair, Am and Kieran. Kieran is the brother, Am is the sister. Am realizes what exactly they don't exactly say explicitly why he has decided to defect or turn against the Empire in this instance. Maybe he just realizes that the Empire is up to no good, and there is this very interesting back and forth exchange between Kieran and Am, and so it's this particular episode is very much about the dynamic of family, and in this particular context of a brother and a sister. And I want to say a shout to the chat. Dandelion Fluff, Dandelion, good to see you. I don't, Dandelion. I know you and I have talked off and on and everything, and I know I it's a pleasure to have you here. So thank you for being here this afternoon. Dandelion, if you're wondering what I'm discussing today, I'm talking about Star Wars Visions. I'm gonna be doing I did a quick rundown on my thoughts on the statement by Marcia Lucas that she released the other day, and I'm gonna be giving to wrap up. I'm gonna be giving a review of the latest episode of What If. So, but anyway, in terms of of the twins episode from Star Wars Visions, they the way this fight goes is very reminiscent of how a lot of the fights in Dragon Ball Z go. If you're familiar with how Dragon Ball Z is structured in terms of how their fights go. So, okay, Ambassador Wing can bring a Star Destroyer. It seems odd because when they talk about who has the most tapped midi-chlorians. So, Kieran, I'm not understanding that comment whatsoever. So you're gonna have to kind of flesh out what you're saying because I'm not following you at all. So, and hey, Dandelion, hope you're having a good day at work and appreciate you stopping by. So, um, I'll talk to you soon. So, and I'll bring up Josh's comment here. Let's see. Cool. I was not the biggest fan of the Skywalker storyline. I'm more of a KOTOR and Old Republic fan, but I'm starting to get into the other Star Wars stories. And hey, Josh, I can understand that. I mean, it depends on your entry point into the franchise, what you're going to be most keyed to, and what you're going to be most interested in. Um, I'm a fan of the entire gamut of Star Wars content. There is stuff out there obviously I don't care for that I didn't like, but honestly, I think a lot of people, whether they are anime fans or not, I hope are going to at least give Visions a chance, because some of at least of the first 3 episodes I've discussed here, the stories themselves are, I think, very well written, and they deal with dynamics that I think a lot of Star Wars fans and people just who are fans of anime are really going to resonate with. And as I mentioned earlier in the stream, I think it was a very ballsy and a very gutsy move for those at Lucasfilm to decide to bring all of these different anime studios in and these anime creators and writers and directors and artists to create these stories and just kind of give them free reign. Because here's the thing to remember, and everything, and I don't know if you all know this, those of you that are part of the Star Wars fandom, like myself. Visions is not canon. It's its own separate thing. It exists in its own separate universe. It does function on some of the same principles of the Star Wars universe in terms of how certain aspects of the universe function, but the stories themselves are going to be very unorthodox. And any of you who are familiar with Japanese anime are know that a lot of the stories they tell in a lot of these different anime franchises can at times seem very off the wall, very out there. But I will say the emotional core for us as Star Wars fans is very much there. And to kind of get back on track with my thoughts on the twins episode of Visions, you've got a brother and a sister who are at different points in their journey as people, and whose perspective on the empire and how they are being used by the empire to use their abilities to destroy other worlds. Whereas there's a very interesting line in this episode, but it's an exchange between Kieran and Am, and she's like, "Well, who are you going to take the kyber crystal to? The Republic, or are you going to give it to somebody else in the Empire?" And he's like, "The Empire, the Republic. I don't care about either one of them. I just want you safe. I want out of this whole mess." He wants to find his own path. He wants to find his own road. And I think that's a very interesting story. I will say, if there is a season 2 of Visions, I would love to see a continuation of this particular story arc, because there is room there for them to tell a further story. I mean, it is left on a cliffhanger, in a manner of speaking, but for me at least, it works. So, and I'll address Kira's comment here. In the Force Unleashed, Starkiller could destroy a Star Destroyer. Many Clorians are the way they explain why Force powers differ, and Anakin had the most then, was but was Bane the strongest of them? Here's the thing with the whole midichlorian issue, Kira, excuse me. Um, I never had a major problem with them including midichlorians in the Star Wars universe, because here's how I view that whole dynamic of what Ben tells, or what Obi-Wan tells Luke in A New Hope, and what Qui-Gon tells Anakin in The Phantom Menace. They are two different perspectives on the same concept. And one is a very spiritualistic, semi-religious aspect of what the Force is. Whereas Qui-Gon's explanation to Anakin and what they flesh out further in the Clone Wars animated series is more scientific, but it still carries within it that same spiritual connection. And that honestly is actually played out in this particular episode of Visions with the twins installment, because you have beings that have been engineered to be very powerful force wielders, but they are essentially a weapon to be used by the Empire. They have no agency of their own. And throughout the course of this episode, you see both a very intense and very frantic duel between the brother and the sister. But at the same time, it's also a battle of wills. And the brother's trying to get his sister to see his perspective, and for them to just leave the empire and everything else behind and just find their own road forward. And I myself, like I said, I would love to see a continuation of this particular story arc if there is a season 2 of Visions. So, and I'll bring up Josh's comment here. My dad got me into Star Wars when I was 4 years old, so I started with A New Hope, but was always fascinated with the Jedi and the Sith lore. Now I like a little bit of everything. Josh, Josh, I know you and I really haven't talked about Star Wars very much or anything, and I think that's true also of Kira. My father was the person who got me into Star Wars when I was a kid. Return of the Jedi was one of the last films that I got to watch with my mother and father before my father died a year later in 1984. Because for those of you who remember, Return of the Jedi came out in 1983. So Star Wars will always have that deep personal connection for me, because It is a heirloom, it is a memory, it is a memento that my father left for me that he and I shared. And that's why I've always viewed Star Wars as a familia um, story, and I think that obviously is one of the aspects of it. Is a story about family first and foremost. Now, to kind of expand upon what you said here, Josh, yes, I am also a historian, quote unquote, of the whole war between the Jedi and the Sith, between the light and the dark side of the Force, going all the way back to the Great Schism that takes place before we see anything on any screen. And that particular conflict has always been of interest to me, and that's something that I included in the fan fiction I've been working on for about a year now. And I will be interested to see what the other installments of Visions brings me. And I am very much intrigued because the reason I check out these shows and these series and these movies as they come out, it is me carrying on a tradition which I feel me and my father would have shared if he was still alive. And I like to believe, and this may be a small conceit, but it's mine because it's my dad, and I am entitled here. I think he may have shared he may have shared a similar perspective on the sequel trilogy as well. Would he have been maybe as vocal about it as I am? Maybe not. But being fans, I went to see the special editions in theater. One, because I had never seen Star Wars on the big screen, at least the first two. I never saw New Hope and I never saw Empire on the big screen. I do remember seeing Return of the Jedi on the big screen, but I was very young. But I went to see the special editions on the big screen because I believe if my father had been alive, we would have gone together. And I still have my ticket stubs. I went to see the prequels in the theater because I believe if my father were alive, he would have wanted us to see them together. And also with my mom as well, because my mom, she likes Star Wars. She's not the uber fan that I am, but Mother and Bastard, she enjoys Star Wars just on a more casual level. And that's okay. But for myself, if I believe if my father was alive, would we be sitting down together talking or discussing or watching Visions together? Yeah, probably. Because my dad was a geek before being a geek was cool. And my father was a very special type of geek because he was also a band geek. My father was a very talented and very skilled musician. He never went pro or anything like that, but he could sing like a bird, and any instrument you put in front of him, he could play. And Star Wars is our connection, even though he's gone. Star Wars is my way of remembering all those good memories I have of my father. And that's why I talk about it, and that's why I discuss it, and that's why I'm as passionate about it as I am. I mean, there's only one other thing I'm more passionate about than Star Wars, and that is, of course, my Christian faith. And my father also was a very strong, devout Christian as well. And as I say in my dedication for my fan fiction, because this fan fiction that I'm going to be finishing up in the next week or so is dedicated to him, because he was the one that introduced me to this universe. He was the one who fanned the flames of my geekdom when I was young. And it is for him that I have poured my time and my energy and my passion and all my knowledge of the Star Wars universe into this fan fiction to make it the best story I possibly can. Because he deserves that much. So, and I do want to bring up Josh's comment here. Oh, hang on, let me. And Lewis Cox, I'm sorry. I hope you don't think I was ignoring you. I am by no means. Lewis, thank you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the stream. And Lewis, I don't know if you are the biggest anime fan. I know that you are a Star Wars fan, but I will recommend that you go check out Star Wars Visions, at least the first 3 episodes, because that's the only 3 I've been able to watch so far. But I do want to bring up Josh's comment here real quick. I understand my father passed away as well in 2016. Episode 3 was the last movie my dad and I got to see in theaters. Yeah. And Josh, I that is a beautiful memory, and I hope that you hold tightly to it. And I'll bring up Josh's other comment here. We went in the 90s when they did the remasters and the prequels. I think he would he would have loved Mando. I'm a pastor's kid, so us going to see stuff like Star Wars was great. Yeah, Josh, I can fully understand that. So, and I'll bring up your other comment here too. I will say this is the first Star Wars I saw in cinema was Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But I watched the OT way before I saw The Phantom Menace. This will maybe date me on VHS, yeah, on video. No, hey Lewis, we still own some VHSs ourselves. I might post a picture of this on Instagram or on my Twitter or something. I have a sealed set of the VHS remaster of the original trilogy. It was the last time that they did a VHS release of the original trilogy before the special editions were ever released. My mother has another set which has been opened and has been well watched. But it still works. Yeah, and Lewis, I'll bring up your comment here. I love Star Wars, but the fandom I can live without some parts of it anyway. Yeah, and Lewis, I do understand that sentiment is a sentiment I share myself, so I'm right there with you. Yeah, Josh. Then Josh, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Kira, you're welcome, man. And hey, sorry, I don't like to bring anybody to tears unless it's the happy kind or a good kind. But when I get to talking about Star Wars, I gotta talk about Dad because he was the one that got me into all this stuff. He's the reason, and I say this, and I say it with no regret whatsoever. My father, like I am a geek, like my father before me. Pun intended. But anyway, those are my initial thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Visions. Like I said, I know I've said this several times, but I will bring you all a full breakdown and rundown of the entire first season of Visions once I finish watching all of them and everything. But I do want to wrap up this stream and everything. And Kira, I do want to let you know I'm probably not going to drop the link this time. But I might do that again. I might do that sometime this weekend when I do a further breakdown of Visions and everything. So, but I hope you do enjoy the stream regardless, whether or not we get to talk face to face or face to face, quote unquote. But it's getting kind of late, and I do need to have dinner, and I've got a few things I want to do before I get turned around for work tomorrow morning and everything. So this won't be a super long stream, but yeah, Lewis, I imagine you have Disney Plus. I really think if you are a Star Wars fan, or if you're a fan of anime, or if you are both like myself, I think you'll enjoy this. So, oh yeah, Kira. And hey, Kira, I don't know if you are on social media. I am on Twitter, I am on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook and everything. But Twitter is the best place to. Oh yeah, Josh. And Josh, I may address that thing because I never got a chance to really address that. Actually, no, I'll just go ahead and do it right now before I do my review of this latest episode of What If. When they announced that they were going to do a remake of KOTOR, and Madam Ambassador showed me the teaser, I was dumbstruck. Absolutely, positively dumbstruck. Because this was when they started doing remasters of older games, I always thought in the back of my mind, would they ever do Knights of the Old Republic, the first game? And when I saw that minute plus teaser, it was like a supernova went off in my mind. And I was like, please do it right. Please do it justice. Even if you decide to change the story a little bit, get the main beats right. Make it look beautiful. Make it have that punch and that impact. And hey, Lewis, real quick. Cool. Excellent. Anyway, I, for one, am definitely we are going to figure out a way to get a PS5 by hook or by crook. Not necessarily by crook, but y'all get my point. Because that is just the extra added incentive for us to get a PS5, because I played the hell out of the first KOTOR and I loved it. And a name I have not seen in a while, Andre of the Nicotina show, Nicotina. It is good to see you. Yes, all is very, very well. Just got done wrapping up, giving my thoughts on the first 3 episodes I got to watch of Star Wars Visions. Gave my thoughts on the statement that Marcia Lucas had released earlier this week. And I'm going to be wrapping up here in a little bit and everything with my thoughts on the latest episode of What If. So, and hey, Nicotina, I think we follow each other on social media. I know you are, at least I'm assuming you are, a very big Star Wars fan. And I've got a project that I'm wrapping up that if you're free and you're interested, I'd like to discuss with you. So I'll be reaching out to you on social media. But hey, Andre, great to see you, bud. Appreciate you being here. So, but anyhow, in terms of the KOTOR remake, I don't care who's involved in writing it, so long as they are talented. I don't care what their political leanings are. I could give two hoots in hell, so long as they are going to do a good job at writing a good story and writing these characters that we all know and we all love well. As long as Bastila, Bastila Shan, Cartho Nassi, HK-47, Jolie Bendo, Juhani, Candris Ordo, and Revenant Malik are there, and they are in the same spirit of what we got originally, but maybe with an added twist here or there, I am all for this remake. So, as far as anything that the pack of intellectual dead ends known as the Phantom Menace has to say, you can take your opinions and you can shove them down the Sarlacc pit for all I care, because your opinions mean jack diddly squat to me. As far as I'm concerned, you're not fans, you're phonies. But anyway, as long as all the other things that I have listed off goes for this remake of KOTOR, I will reserve my thoughts any further in terms of what I hope the game includes. I just hope that it is good, and I hope it is as good as the original. So, and Josh, thank you. I do appreciate that. So, but I do want to I do want to yeah, Lewis Nicotine is here. Nicotine pops in every once in a while and everything, and I'm glad he's here and everything. I regard Nicotina as a fellow fan and everything, and a good egg all around. So, and hey, for those of you that are in the chat, if you are not subscribed to Nicotina, um, I would highly recommend it. Nicotina has often some very good takes, and he is, like I said, he is an all around very good guy. So, but anyway, that being said, let's move along to the next topic of the afternoon, and that is, of course, this latest episode of What If. And it is simply titled, What If Thor Odinson Was an Only Child? And speaking as an only child myself, the last several episodes of What If have had have had a very dark tone, a very serious tone to them. And I have to say, this was a nice, refreshing change. Although, granted, the ending had a bit of a dark cliffhanger tone to it, and I did enjoy it. But at the same time, the majority of this episode is very off the walls, funny and goofy and silly. And honestly, I did not have a problem with it. Because as I mentioned, the last several episodes of What If that we have gotten have been very, very dark. And I did check to see who all they got back or who all they got to do the voice casting, and they had practically every person that had played a part or played that particular role, except for maybe one or two characters, was in this. You had Natalie Portman, you had Chris Hemsworth, you had the actress who played Darcy, you had Colby Smothers, you had the guy who played Agent Coulson, you had Samuel L. Jackson. The only thing I was just a little bummed about, just a little bit, and yes, this might be a hot take, and I do not care. I was a little bummed that they couldn't get Brie Larson to voice Captain Marvel. There, I said it. And no, I don't care if y'all hate me for it. Or if somebody catches a little replay is like, oh, Ambassador likes Brie Larson. Let's give this a down like. All I'll say is thank you for the interaction. Yes, I was a little bummed that they couldn't get Brie Larson to come in and do the voice part for Captain Marvel. But I was happy to see Loki in all of his frost giant glory, and I was happy also to see that Tom Hiddleston did do the voice work for Loki in this episode. And yes, this was a very unorthodox and a very off the walls, goofy and silly installment um of What If. And honestly, it was a nice change of pace. So, and Lewis Cox here, and Lewis, you and I share a lot of commonalities here. I am a dork, geek, nerd for so many things like Star Trek, Babylon 5, one of the best. You have good taste. Stargate, Star Wars, Transformers, Power Rangers. Lewis, I can't back you on that one. I just can't. I don't. I never cared for the Power Rangers. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and so many other things. Yeah, Lewis, hey, your geek card is in good standing. You don't have a darn thing to worry about. But in terms of this episode of What If, it was just a party. I mean, Thor doesn't have Loki there to be the counterbalance, so he becomes the wild child. And to think that you have a exceedingly powerful being who is a wild party animal type of personality is very, very out there. And I, for one, I love this. Yeah, and hey, Josh, that's cool, dude. And that was just me being a little trolling the anti-trolling the trollers. That's all. So, and Josh, you're good, man. You don't like Brie Larson. That's cool. I don't take a personal offense to that. I mean, for heaven's sakes, next week I'm doing a Brie Larson appreciation stream. Yes, you all heard that right. I think it's next Saturday. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday, I am doing a Brie Larson appreciation stream. And no, it is not a joke. So, but anyway, in terms of this episode of What If, oh yeah, Josh, you're good, man. It was this episode. It's got tension to it, but at the same time, there is absolutely no stakes whatsoever, except between with the fight between Captain Marvel and Thor. And she's like, "If I let go." Ambassador, I know that people may not like Power Rangers like you, but I do. LOL, and I understand. The only Lewis, the thing was, I was like in junior high or high school when Power Rangers came out and became a thing. For me, I always viewed Power Rangers as like a knockoff of Voltron, which I think Voltron is far superior. Just saying. But that's another discussion for another time. But in terms of this entire episode, we get a lot of cameos. We see Yondu, we see Rocket Raccoon, we see Grandmaster, voiced by Jeff Goldblum himself. Yes, they got Jeff Goldblum to come in for an episode of What If, and I say thank you. We get Howard the Duck again, another appearance by the marvelous Mallard, and him and Darcy get married in Vegas. But it just goes. The thing I will take away, the takeaway from this episode is we are off. And this is just my perspective on it. We are influenced by the people that are part of our lives, and the interesting thing here is without a goofy, mischievous brother to kind of counterbalance Thor's somewhat stodgy and also rambunctious attitude, Thor turns into a wild party animal with a cosmic level amount of power. Not to mention Mew. Yeah, Mew. Not Mjolnir, Mew. And this episode was just so damn goofy. And then how do they resolve it? They call Thor's mom. And I have to admit, he's like, they called my mom. Hey, everybody, we gotta stay and clean this planet up, or my mom's gonna chew my butt out. I this episode is just a completely irreverent romp in the What If universe, and I, for one, it's goofy, it's stupid, and I'm okay with that. I really am. I am okay with the fact that this particular episode of What If is goofy and stupid. That it's just a knockdown, drag out fight between Thor and Captain Marvel. And it's Thor coming to Earth to have a party. And he hooks up with Jane, and yes, I said it that way. They hook up, or at least we can insinuate that they hooked up. And whew, he's probably gotta have the stamina of 1,000 Asgardians. I can just imagine Jane saying, "I want the ass of that Asgardian right over there." Yeah, Lewis. Yeah, that's exactly the gist of it. In this what if episode with Thor seemed like he was boyish and a party person. Yep, pretty much. Everybody called him the party prince. And you know, like I said, it just goes to show how a person's journey can be influenced by different people. Without Loki there, Thor turns into what we see in this episode. And it's just plain dumb. But it's the good kind of dumb. It's I will say this. This is like Marvel meets Dude, Where's My Car? Or Marvel meets Dumb and Dumber. Or what's another? Oh, here's one. Marvel meets Encino Man, for those of you that might be familiar with that movie. And I'm okay with that because I love those types of comedies. I love the goofy, dumb buddy comedies like Dude, Where's My Car? Or Encino Man or with a Dumb and Dumber or whatever the case may be. And yes, Lewis, it was a fun episode. And I think that was kind of the point. Like I said, the last several episodes, I mean, we had Doctor Strange going down the rabbit hole and getting himself devoured and destroying the universe. In the next episode, we got um zombies. And we got zombie Thanos who's going to either wipe out half the galaxy or turn everybody into zombies with the Infinity Gauntlet. And then the last week's episode, we got now I will say this. I don't mind dark episodes. I really enjoyed these last 3 episodes of What If. And then, of course, we got what if Killmonger had saved Tony Stark, and it ends up with Killmonger killing Rhodey, killing Tony, and becoming the new Black Panther. And it is a very dark episode, but they were all very good. I really enjoyed them. So I think this episode was a nice change of pace. Do I think it was a little too overly goofy? No, because I think what they were trying to do was counterbalance all the dark, heavy stuff that they had just given us the last 3 weeks. And I was perfectly fine with that. Now, granted, like I said, the episode ends on a very dark cliffhanger where you see Vision come in a suit of armor with all the Infinity Stones mounted on it and a army of Ultron robots or Ultron drones flanking him. Oh, the Captain Carter, Doctor Strange episodes were really cool. I liked them. Yeah, Lewis, I did too. And then, Lewis, if you've watched my reviews of What If, you know this. I mean, personally, for me, the What If series thus far, it's been good. And yes, there's not a whole lot to talk about, like going deep into this episode with this latest episode of What If, but I honestly really enjoyed it. So, and I do want to send a shout to the chat, Archer Colin. Colin, it's good to see you. Just popping in for a minute because I wanted to check when the Babylon 5 stream is. It's currently showing for tomorrow rather than Friday. Yes, Colin, we had the Man and Master's got a doctor's appointment this Friday. And we're gonna go see Mother Ambassador afterwards, and we might be spending the afternoon with her. So we rescheduled. I was actually gonna send out a channel update later today, or I might do it tomorrow, one or the other on social media to let everybody know what's going on. And I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. But yeah, this week we're gonna be going live on Thursday rather than Friday, but we'll be back to our normal time next week. Or at least we should be, unless something else comes up, which I'm hoping it doesn't. But yeah, that's why we're going to be the council is going to be going live tomorrow afternoon instead of Friday afternoon. So anyway, but Colin, thank you for popping in. I do appreciate it. So and always a pleasure to see you in the chat. So, but anyways, folks, that's I think that's going to kind of be the stream for this afternoon. Um, as always, make sure you, and I do want to say a couple more things before I do wrap up. Um, we're closing in on 450 subscribers, and I do want to let you all know we're going to do something special because it seems like it's taking forever just to get to 450 subscribers. So, yeah, Lewis, like I said, Madam Ambassador's got a doctor's appointment on Friday, and we're going to go see Mother Ambassador afterwards. So I probably won't be home in time um, to do the Council of One's Babylon 5 stream on Friday. So we're going to do it tomorrow. I talked with the council, and everybody was good with doing it then. So we're gonna do it then. And hey, no, Colin, you're good, man. You're fine. I mean, um, you're a regular subscriber. You're always here, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate you popping in to say hi and to check on that. So, um, but I to let y'all know, like I started to say, I'm gonna do something. We're gonna do. I think we're gonna try and do. I'm gonna do a watch party when we hit 450 subscribers and everything, and I'll do it over on my Twitch channel because, well, you don't have the restrictions there that you would for like you would on YouTube. And I'm going to go through the library and pick out something good, and I'll give you all an update on that and anything for when we hit 450 and so on. So anyway, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel. I appreciate you all for being here every week whenever I go live, and it means a lot that y'all back me, y'all support me, y'all believe in what I do. So, and I know that I know that may not make a lick of sense, or maybe it does. I don't know, but I never imagined that I would have been on YouTube for 2 years because in November I'll celebrate 2 years being on here and going to have another big blowout in November for that 2 year anniversary. So, and maybe by then I'll have hit 500 subscribers. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But as always, make sure you leave your comments down below with anything I brought up this afternoon, whether it was about the whole matter with Marcia Lucas or on the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Visions, or even on this latest episode of What If. So, but I do want to let y'all know I will be back tomorrow afternoon with the Council of Ones. We'll be doing our review of Babylon 5. Season 4, the episode Lines of Communication. And then I will be back also. Tomorrow will be a double header day. I'll be doing I'll be live Thursday tomorrow night with the Ambassador's Retro Reviews. I'll be reviewing a couple favorites of mine from the 1990s. And then, of course, is two of my all-time favorites from a favorite actor of mine, Sylvester Stallone. And I'll be discussing Demolition Man and Judge Dredd. So, and that will be, of course, at 7 p.m. Central Time. So, hope to see you all then. And then, of course, I will be going live Saturday night as well. I'm trying to remember, what am I doing Saturday? I've got so much lined out. I forget everything that I'm doing. So, give me just a minute. I know I'm going live Saturday. I just can't remember what I'm discussing on Saturday. So, bear with me for just a minute. Let's see. Oh yeah, yeah. This Saturday night, I'll also be going live at 7 p.m. and we're gonna be doing another Ambassador editorial Let's Talk, and we'll be talking about Marvel before the MCU. We're gonna be talking about the movies that were done in the mid to late 90s and from Marvel Studios, or well, it wasn't Marvel Studios at the time because Marvel Studios didn't exist, but kind of want to rewind a little bit and discuss the hits, the misses that were part of Marvel cinema before the MCU was a thing. So, and I hope to see y'all for that as well. But that all being said, folks, you have a great afternoon or a great evening wherever you're at. And until next time, this is the Ambassador signing off.